As my niece and I settled in for a night of house sitting at my elder brother's place while he and his wife were away, a curious moment unfolded. Amid our lively discussions about our plans for the following day, my niece surprised me by indicating she was ready for bed. With swift determination, she slipped into the closet without hesitation, leaving me momentarily stunned. Hastily reaching out to stop her, I was met with a puzzled look. I'm Melissa, a 24-year-old housewife, and my brother, 5 years my senior, has always been a steadfast presence since we lost our parents early in life. Our bond remained strong even after we both married, and we continue to lean on each other for support. While my in-laws are wonderful, they reside in Alaska, making it challenging to rely on them for immediate assistance. As for my brother Sam and his wife, their union was hastily arranged after a clash with her parents, leading to an ongoing estrangement. With no nearby relatives to lean on, our bond of unwavering support flourished. It grew even stronger when Sam and his wife welcomed their daughter, closely followed by the arrival of a little girl into my own family 4 years later. Living in the same city, the daughters became inseparable, akin to true sisters. As the years passed and my niece Sarah approached her 10th birthday, Sam shared his plans for a special 10th wedding anniversary trip. "Melissa, would you mind looking after Sarah while we're away?" Sam's request came with a touch of hesitation. "It's just a short overnight trip nearby, but we thought it'd be nice to have some time alone." I readily agreed, eager to assist. When we discussed logistics and I inquired about picking up Sarah, Sam shook his head, indicating a different plan. It became clear he wanted me to stay over at their house with Sarah, concerned about leaving it unattended for security reasons. I playfully teased Sam about his excessive concern but eventually relented, opting to spend the night alone. I left my daughter, who still harbors some sleepover jitters, in the care of my husband. On the day of their anniversary getaway, I headed to Sam's house. Holding Sarah's hand, we bid farewell to her parents. She seemed a tad apprehensive as she watched them depart, but our house-sitting escapade was about to commence. Initially, I had planned to bring my daughter along and have my husband retrieve her at bedtime. However, Sarah adamantly refused, so I abandoned the idea. While I know she enjoys my daughter's company, she remained firm in her decision without offering an explanation. Sensing her disappointment, I'd offered to treat her to a playdate at my house after breakfast the next day, sparking a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. Sarah typically tailors her play to include my daughter, so I brought along some slightly more intricate games and puzzles that adults could also enjoy. As I laid them out, I asked Sarah what she fancied playing. We whiled away the hours engaged in games and cooking dinner together, yet Sarah remained by my side, casting nervous glances around the room. Initially, I attributed her behavior to potential loneliness or lingering nerves from being away from her parents, but even after several hours, her demeanor didn't shift. Concerned, I gently probed if something troubled her, but no matter how many times I inquired, her response remained the same. "No, it's nothing," without divulging further. Sarah's guarded behavior hinted at an unseen apprehension. It wasn't until bedtime approached that I grasped the gravity of her unease. Sarah slipped into her pajamas, a smile adorning her face as she swung open the closet door, and declared her intention to turn in early, planning to head to my house in the morning. To my surprise, nestled within the closet was a bed, its presence catching me off guard. Attempting to make sense of the situation, I watched as Sarah swiftly settled onto the bed, bidding me good night while nudging the door closed. My astonishment spilled out in a raised voice. "Wait, Sarah, are you planning to sleep in there?" Her response, delivered with a solemn expression, affirmed her decision. "Yes, but it's okay. I'll keep it slightly ajar. If anything happens, I'll wake up immediately." Concealing my bewilderment, I extended an invitation for Sarah to join me in my own bed. After some hesitation, she relented and joined me. She explained her desire to keep the bed in the closet as a hiding spot. Though perplexed by her reasoning, I reassured her it was perfectly acceptable. With a bright tone, I queried why she felt the need for a hiding spot. After extracting a promise from me not to chuckle, she leaned in and whispered, "The monster might come." At first, one might assume she was just an innocent child, but the tale she spun shattered any semblance of innocence. Sarah trembled, clinging tightly to my arm. "The monster is terrifying and cunning. It only shows up when Daddy's away. If it appears, Mommy has to fend it off, and I must stay hidden in the closet until she succeeds. Mommy always cries during the struggle." Once, I tried to assist her, but the monster's banging on the closet door scared me so much. I wrapped my arms around Sarah, feeling her tremble against me, and sighed deeply. Perhaps this monster was more than a bedtime tale. It felt too real. The revelation of my sister-in-law's affair, discovered in such an unexpected manner, left me adrift. If the supposed monster was indeed her lover, it wouldn't dare approach this house while she was absent. Yet Sarah firmly believed it targeted days when Daddy was away. As I observed Sarah's vigilance throughout the day, her proximity a shield against potential threats, my heart ached. Considering the gentle soul of my niece and my brother's unwavering trust in his wife, anger swelled within me towards my sister-in-law. But above all, I yearned to offer solace and reassurance to Sarah. I gently clasped Sarah's hand, offering her a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Auntie's here today. You mentioned the monster is cunning, right? Well, it'll be caught off guard by a stranger like me and won't dare to come near the house. Besides, your mommy, who the monster always targets, is safe with Daddy right now, so it can't harm her." Despite my attempts to ease her anxiety, Sarah remained clouded with worry, unaware of the monster's true identity. With each passing moment, her apprehension grew, fearing an imminent attack. She suggested we seek refuge together in the closet, prompting me to encourage her to share her concerns about the monster. I hoped that by addressing her fears one by one, she would eventually find peace and drift off to sleep. As I listened to Sarah's distressing revelations, I realized I couldn't simply remain idle. Without hesitating, I whisked her out of the house, disregarding her attire, and swiftly drove us home. Upon arrival, I briefed my husband on the situation and coordinated for him and his friends to spend the night at Sam's house. Around 10 p.m., after my husband and his companions had departed, I received a call from Sam inquiring about Sarah's well-being. "Has Sarah already retired for the night? Don't forget to take care of yourself and your family too. Ensure the house is securely locked. Good night," he advised before bidding farewell. After inquiring about Sarah, Sam urged me to ensure the door was securely locked before retiring for the night. His stern warning resonated deeply, and I fought to steady my voice as I assured him. Once the call ended, I glanced at the peaceful slumber of Sarah and my daughter, steeling myself to confront the lurking menace. The following morning, my husband returned from my brother's house, and my emotions swirled with a mixture of fear and anger as he recounted the events of the previous night. Relief washed over me, knowing my actions had been justified. We spent the remainder of the day at home, anxiously awaiting my brother and his wife's arrival to retrieve Sarah. Upon laying eyes on me, my brother's demeanor shifted to stern interrogation. He demanded to know why Sarah and I had departed his house during the night. "Why didn't you stay put as I instructed? I explicitly warned you not to leave. You claim to understand, so what possessed you to return home on your own?" His accusations left me feeling uneasy, prompting me to question how, while on a trip, he was aware of our absence. Avoiding direct eye contact, he reluctantly confessed, "We provided Sarah with a smartphone equipped with GPS." His revelation contradicted his earlier insistence on not leaving the house during our phone call the previous night. If he had indeed monitored the GPS, he would have easily discerned our departure. Suppressing my urge to confront Sam then and there, I maintained a composed demeanor, mindful not to disturb the children in the adjacent room. "By the way, did you have visitors last night?" My brother's tone shifted, his concern palpable. "Two unfamiliar men showed up at your house late. Who are they? Why would they come to a house that's meant to be occupied only by Sarah and you in the dead of night?" His voice quivered, though not from fear of the unknown intruders, but from a different source altogether. As he spoke, it became evident he was treading cautiously, his eyes darting around. "About those men," I pressed for clarification, but my brother's attempts at evasion were interrupted by his wife, Kate. Whether she was anxious about further discussion or for other reasons, she abruptly called for Sarah and declared they were heading home. As Sarah emerged from another room upon hearing her mother's call, Kate seized her hand with an unmistakable force. Abruptly, Sam's demeanor shifted, his words carrying an abrupt finality. "I can't forgive what happened, but we're leaving today," he declared, urging Sarah to depart the room. Despite my efforts to dissuade them, my brother and his wife remained resolute in their decision to leave. Ignoring my pleas, they pressed on without a backward glance. Witnessing Sarah's resistance to her parents' departure, I swiftly drew her close. "What's going on?" Kate's startled cry echoed as she released Sarah's hand, but I shielded the child behind me, creating a barrier between us and the departing couple. Amidst their hostile tirade, my husband and I stood firm, adamantly refusing to surrender Sarah. As they advanced toward us with fury in their eyes, we managed to usher them out of the room, firmly asserting our stance against allowing Sarah to be taken away. Swiftly, a waiting police officer intervened, promptly detaining the agitated couple. Confusion reigned as the officers attempted to contact my brother and his wife. Sam vehemently insisted to the officer that it was we who should be detained, alleging that we had taken Sarah from her home and were holding her against her will. My sister and her husband have abducted her from her rightful place. Please rescue her swiftly, he implored, despite our protests. Our daughter, emerging from the chaos, sought refuge behind me, engaging Sarah in a bewildered conversation, affirming she was not being held against her will. Sam's stern demand for Sarah to accompany him fell on deaf ears as she clung to my side, paralyzed by her father's towering anger. Kate remained silent beside the officer, casting furtive glances at Sam, hinting at an unspoken message intended for him and Sarah. As the officer restrained Sam, who was causing a scene at the entrance, my husband intervened, holding his smartphone aloft. Sensing the tension, I ushered Sarah and our daughter back into the adjacent room, urging them to close the door to muffle any sounds. With their safety ensured, my husband silently played a video he had recorded in my brother's house the previous night. As the footage unfolded before their eyes, a ghostly pallor washed over the couple's faces, betraying the shock of realization. The video unfolded with eerie precision, capturing the quiet turning of the house key followed by the stealthy entrance of two unknown men, seemingly armed with a duplicate key. Their jovial demeanor upon entering, coupled with mentions of my brother's name, sent shivers down our spines. "You guys are ghosts too, huh?" they quipped, followed by a chilling joke about discounted rates, invoking my familial connection. With smirks etched across their faces, they directed their attention to my husband and his friends. Evading direct inquiries, my husband's friend offered a vague response, prompting one of the men to boast about the sum paid, hinting at a close relationship with my brother and his wife. Their unsettling remarks took a darker turn as they casually mentioned their plans involving Sarah. As the camera caught a glimpse of their profile, a sinister aura emanated, rendering them more villainous than any mere monster. From my vantage point, the screen remained obscured, but the chilling audio alone sent shivers down my spine. Following the playback, my husband's friends wasted no time interrogating the intruders, probing into their frequent visits and habitual pairings. Their inquiries soon turned to Sarah and me, a sense of urgency tainting their tone. My husband's terse admission of our absence seemed to jolt the intruders into reality, realizing the gravity of their situation. With mounting tension, the men made a hasty exit, their hurried departure leaving lingering questions in their wake. Whether they had overlooked my husband's recording until the last moment or deliberately concealed its existence remained unclear. My brother, appearing visibly shaken, vehemently protested his ignorance, clinging to the belief that he was being framed. However, the damning evidence presented in the video, entrusted to me and young Sarah by my brother, shattered any lingering doubts. His feigned ignorance failed to sway anyone, leading to his apprehension by the authorities. Kate, though feigning innocence, found herself under scrutiny as well, her involvement questioned by the officers who had heard Sarah's testimony. Consequently, both Sam and Kate were escorted into custody, their roles in the unfolding drama under intense scrutiny. During the police investigation, Sam and Kate eventually came clean, leading to their arrest. Shockingly, Kate had been orchestrating a lucrative scheme, inviting men to their home while Sam was away at work and profiting from their visits. When she realized there was a demand for children, she exploited Sarah, carefully skirting the law to assist her mother, who was under pressure from unsavory individuals. Innocent Sarah, unaware of the sinister motives, innocently posed for photos which Kate used to entice potential clients. These were innocent snapshots, devoid of any suggestive content, captured with a disposable camera and only lent out to interested parties, never sold. While I detested Kate for her actions initially, it seemed like a matter that didn't directly concern my husband and me. However, things took a darker turn when Sam not only condemned but actively participated in the exploitation, rather than reprimanding his wife or protecting their daughter. So, instead of addressing the issue, Sam decided to expand the operation, recruiting men to become clients, believing that more employees would lead to increased revenue. With this simple yet flawed logic, he devised a plan to involve me in his business. Knowing I would never willingly agree, he resorted to coercion, using the threat of exposing the photos as leverage. Their scheme took a sinister turn when they carefully selected a day when the neighbors were absent, locking both Sarah and me inside their house. Then, without a second thought, they exchanged their house key for a large sum of money and departed on a pre-planned vacation, leaving us behind. Unbeknownst to them, Sarah, who had always dutifully obeyed their commands, chose to reveal the truth in order to protect me. Despite her limited understanding of the conversations, Sarah sensed the danger lurking around us, and she confided in me, unveiling the nightmarish reality of Sam's household. Faced with this revelation, I implored my husband to capture the perpetrator's activities on camera that very night. Their inadvertent disclosure provided crucial evidence for the police, prompting swift action upon my report. Simultaneously, I notified child welfare services to ensure Sarah's safety. From the vantage point of the police bus, we watched as Sam and Kate were apprehended at their doorstep, finally shielding Sarah from their grasp. Despite being first-time offenders, the severity of their crimes, including violations of child welfare and anti-prostitution laws, warranted their imprisonment. The police emphasized the gravity of the situation, particularly the implications of the stored images of the child, which could never be completely eradicated once leaked online. The chilling reality of their actions struck me to the core as the police relayed this information. Fortunately, Kate hadn't digitized or sold the photos of Sarah and had kept them securely stored, averting any potential leaks. It's baffling to comprehend how my once kind and dependable brother Sam could devolve into such a monstrous figure. Until then, our relationship had been characterized by mutual support, making it all the more frightening to realize how deeply he had descended into darkness. Despite their arrest, I still grapple with the enormity of their actions. Following Sam and Kate's apprehension, the authorities also interrogated the other individuals involved. Initially, they attempted to claim innocence, arguing that it was merely an attempted crime. However, the discovery of a child's photograph in their possession and the revelation of additional criminal activities confessed by Sam and Kate during the investigation led to their arrest on multiple charges. After dealing with the monsters and their associates, our next concern was Sarah's well-being. With both her parents unfit for guardianship and no family willing to step in, Child Protective Services decided to remove her from their care. While this was a relief, Sam and I faced the harsh reality that neither of us had parental figures, and Kate's family had severed ties. We discovered that if we couldn't find a suitable guardian within Kate's family, Sarah would be placed in foster care. After much deliberation with my husband, we made the decision to adopt her. Sarah held a special place in my heart, and I couldn't bear the thought of parting ways with her. Thankfully, my husband shared my sentiment, and we saw this as an opportunity to start anew in the countryside, closer to my in-laws. Moving to the countryside not only provided Sarah with stability but also allowed my daughter to spend more time with her grandparents, whom she adored. She was thrilled to have Sarah as her older sister, fulfilling her long-standing wish. Free from the clutches of her parents, Sarah quickly adapted to her new role and environment, embracing a life filled with peace and happiness.
My name is Rose Watson. I've been married for 10 years and live separately from my mother-in-law, who lives far away. I heard that she's retired now and dealing with a bad backache. Because of this, she can't work, and my husband has been sending her money every month. He reminds me to transfer the money at 0:18 each month, and I always make sure to do it. My husband visits his mother at least once a month, helping out with things she can't do. Then one day, he came back from her place and suddenly started yelling at me. "What the hell have you done?" I was confused by his sudden anger and just stared blankly. He accused me of not caring about his feelings regarding the money he sends to his mother. I was caught off guard and didn't understand what he was talking about. "I told you to transfer $1,000 every month." I did transfer it. I'm telling you, it's not been transferred. Do you have any idea how hard it is to send that $1,000? I understand. I've had to take part-time jobs and scrounge for money just for that. Knowing all that, why didn't you send it? I did send it. Why are you saying this? Just calm down a bit. Calm down. How can I be calm when Mom is struggling because she doesn't get the money from me and has even started doing piecework? But I definitely did send it. Are you saying my mom is lying? Then there's no way my mom would lie to me. You can't just make an assumption and then get mad when it's not true. I don't even know why this is happening. I've been sending her the money you give me every month. Then why is she doing piecework? She's in pain lifting heavy boxes. I don't know about that. I haven't seen it. You never go to my family home. I go every month, but you never come with me. You just don't care about my mom. That's not true. There's no need for me to go every month, and it's so far away. I don't want to waste my only day off. Waste your day off. It's visiting family. How can that be a waste? Well, that's your family. You wouldn't think twice about it. But you don't go to my family's house, did you? Of course not. You married into my family, but I didn't marry into yours. You shouldn't say things like that. It only causes trouble. You're the one causing trouble. I wondered if he even realized what he was saying, just venting his anger on me. I thought the conversation was going nowhere, so I tried to escape to the kitchen, but he was too angry and followed me, running away. Huh? I'm not running away. I just want you to calm down. Maybe we should have a coffee and talk this through. I don't need that. Give me back all the money I've been giving you to send to my mom. Hold on. Why does it have to come to this? What about our kids? I don't care about the kids. I don't need a wife who makes my mom suffer. No matter how much I tried to have a rational conversation, my husband just couldn't stay calm and even stated that he didn't care about our kids. Despite my desperate attempts to make him believe me, hours passed with no progress. Finally, feeling there was no other option, after 10 years together, I quietly responded to his demand for divorce. All right, divorce it is. Kicked out by my husband, I left the house with our child. Make sure you file the divorce papers. Conveniently, he had already prepared the divorce papers, as if he knew this would happen. Though I never imagined I'd have to sign such documents, there was no other choice. I left the house, went straight to the office to file the papers, and decided to stay at my parents' house for now. My child was shocked by the sudden turn of events, but all I could do was reassure them with empty words. It's going to be okay. After settling down in a new place with my child, I got a call from my ex-husband, Mark. Something weird is happening. Out of the blue, Mark started talking as if we were still married. What do you want with me, a stranger? Now I know we're strangers. You call me suddenly. Don't even ask about your child and say something weird is happening. You sound much weirder, you know. Well, here's the thing. I've been sending the money to my mom myself, but she says it's not being transferred. So she had to do piecework to get by. Now I get it. That's why you were so angry. And you thought I was pocketing the money. Yeah, that's right. But even when you transferred it yourself, it didn't get there. Yeah, that's what's happening. So doesn't that mean it wasn't me? Well, I don't know about that. What? When you were in charge, maybe you were pocketing the money. That's awful. If that's what you think, then I'll go to your family's house myself. What are you going to do there? Maybe I'll find out something if I go. Yeah, maybe so. We ended up going to my husband's family house together for the first time in a while. When we got there, his sister was present. Oh, why are you here, Selena? I came back because I'm worried about Mom. What about your husband? We're divorced, just like Mark. Oh, so you divorced and came back to your family home? Yes. When did you come back? 6 months ago. 6 months? Never mind that. Mom, is it true that you didn't receive the money I sent? It's true. It doesn't change the fact that the money wasn't received, whether both of you are here or not. But did you print out your account record in your bank book lately? Yes, I did. Just 2 days ago. Can I see the bank book? Sure, you can't show that. Why would you show a bank book to someone else? You're a stranger now. Why would you think she'd show you something so important? Are you out of your mind? But we can't know if the money really wasn't deposited unless we check. You don't need to see it. Then I'll look. I'm her son. It shouldn't matter. Fine, look. There's hardly anything in there anyway. My mother-in-law said this, and then fetched the bank book from a drawer in the next room. But when we looked at the bank book, there were deposits and withdrawals. Look, Mark, there's a deposit from you here, and it was withdrawn the next day. That's quite punctual. Before this, even if you deposited it, it wasn't withdrawn immediately. I couldn't go to the bank much because of my back pain. I would wait until it was absolutely necessary. But since Selena came back, she's been going to the bank for me, which has been a big help. Ever since Selena came back, she's been the one going to the bank. The money was always withdrawn the next day, according to the bank book. Mark and I instinctively looked at her. What? I don't know anything about this, she said desperately. But from what we see here, it looks like you withdrew it, Selena. Mom doesn't go to the bank, and maybe someone else has Mom's card and is withdrawing the money every month. I don't have a card. I'm afraid of losing it, so I never made one. Tell the truth, Selena. All right, it was me. Mom told me to withdraw the $1,000 she was getting each month. I saw it was being deposited every month, so I thought borrowing a little bit would be okay. If you're borrowing it, are you planning to pay it back? I intend to pay it back. I just don't have the money for it right now. Why would you do such a thing? Well, I really needed the money. I only borrowed it because I had to. Besides, Mom's managing to get by. Isn't that fine? Were you that desperate for money? His mother, softening her tone, asked this to my defiant Selena. Then Selena completely changed her tone from her previous assertiveness, now playing the role of a pitiful victim. If that's the case, it can't be helped. Mark was kind enough to send the money, but this is an unavoidable situation. Yeah, if sister was in trouble, it's the family's job to help. After all of his rage and accusations towards me, Mark forgave his sister as if nothing had happened. Hey, I was called a thief over this, and now you're just going to let it go because it's your sister. It can't be helped. She said she's in trouble. That's fine for your money. But don't you have something to say to me? Not really, no. Not even an apology. After all the horrible things you said to me, why should I apologize? I was hurt by what you said, in such a fragile mental state. What anyway? It's not like I did anything wrong, right? Selena was having a hard time, so this happened. It's not Mark's fault. He doesn't need to apologize. Even his mother said, isn't this just like being completely surrounded by enemies? Even if I speak the truth, this place is hostile territory. There's no doubt that anything I say will be met with opposition. Even though a quick look at the bank book would have clarified everything, I had to travel all this way just to be treated like this. Fine. If cutting ties with you costs me this much, it's a small price to pay. I'm leaving. Drive me to the station. Huh? Why do I have to take you? What? We're divorced. First, remember? I don't have to do anything for you, a stranger, because I came all this way for you, did I? I don't remember asking you to come. I just wanted some advice. You came here on your own. You can leave on your own too. That's right. You're not a couple anymore. Why should he take you? What a group. No thank you or sorry for solving the issue. After spending 10 years with such a man, it felt like such a waste of time. Fine, I'll take a taxi. I don't need you. Yeah, that's probably best. Frustrated, I called the taxi and somehow managed to get home. As I got home, tears of frustration streamed down my face, and I swore never to listen to that man again. But then after a while, my husband called me. Maybe he had changed his mind and was about to apologize for what happened. Maybe he'd say he had to act that way in front of his sister and mother. But my expectations were shattered. Can you lend me some money? Shouldn't you say something to me first? Oh, long time no see. That's not what I mean. You're being troublesome, you know. It's not normal to ask for money without even apologizing first. That's not true. We were a married couple after all. You could say we were a united fate. That's not the case anymore. The day we split up, our united fate dissolved. I still think we're a united fate though. He keeps saying whatever he wants. So lend me some money, will you? Why? The truth is I found out Selena has a huge debt. Wait, it's been quite a while since that day. Didn't you ask her what she spent the money on? I couldn't ask her that. It would have been too pitiful. Money is a delicate subject. Maybe her ex-husband had something to do with it. Or there might be some other reason. Sure, there must be some reason. But you should have asked about it for the future, right? I trusted her because we're family, and yet there was no trust for me at all. Well, I've known Selena way longer than I've known you. Yeah, since we were born. That's why I trusted her. I thought everything would be fine, but in the end, it wasn't fine. So what happened? It wasn't fine. Well, it turns out she had a huge debt, and the $1,000 a month wasn't enough. How much does she need then? She wants to repay it all at once. It's true that paying it off in one go would save on interest, but I don't have that kind of savings. So why did you contact me? Because you said you had a good amount of savings when we were in the car going to your parents' house, I remember. I was insulted by him saying I must be struggling without money since our divorce, and that I would have stolen the money. If he continued to ask me to make the transfers, angered by his belittling words and the assumption that I couldn't survive on a part-time job, I ended up revealing that I was trading stocks and making a good profit. But would that lead to an ex-wife being asked for a loan? Selena says she's in debt for $30 million. $30 million? Yes. So please lend me the money. It's okay, right? First, why does she have such a huge debt? I was curious too, so I asked her. It turns out most of it was from shopping, and is all brand items. She just can't control her desire when she sees them and ends up buying things. And she put everything on revolving credit, so the interest adds up. And she keeps buying more every month. Before she knew it, her debt reached $30 million. She's really careless. Mark, laughing it off. His carelessness is quite careless himself. She didn't understand how revolving credit works. She thought she could just pay a set amount each month, and eventually it would be paid off. I guess I can understand that feeling. I can't understand it at all. How could she take such a risk? And wasn't this the reason for her divorce? Now she finally realized the interest is piling up and is becoming a serious problem. So she came crying to me. But I don't have that kind of money. I told her I couldn't give more than $1,000 a month. Then she suggested borrowing from you. What? Why me? You said we were strangers and you didn't even need to drive me to the station. That's all in the past. The past should be washed away like water under the bridge. What a selfish and convenient way of thinking. Would anyone accept that? So you can afford to lend it, right? Well, yes, I do have that much in savings. Then lend it to me. I just made a lot of money with stocks recently. So you win some, you lose some with stocks, right? Yes, yeah, that makes sense. But didn't you say stocks were like gambling? Isn't it gambling? You always ridiculed me for playing the stock market, calling it a gamble, right? Did I? When you wanted a divorce, you hurried to separate because you said having a wife who gambles on stocks would lead to trouble. Well, I said that when I didn't know how much you had saved. So that's why you asked me how much I had. That time you ridiculed me, but then I mentioned I had savings. Well, yeah, I didn't expect you to have that much, but I'm glad I asked. But even at that stage, you still mocked it as gambling. Well, yeah, but that's a small thing. Let's not worry about it. I was foolish. All right, that's not all right. You are really cruel. And now you want money I saved for our child. You're worrying too much. Our child won't need that money for a long time. It's silly to start saving from now. Money rots if you don't use it. Money rots. I've never heard of money rotting. Think of this as an investment. It's like investing in me. Why would I invest in you? Just do it. Lending me the money would be the smartest move, right? Look, if I lend you money, it won't come back right. You're still sending $11,000 a month to your mom. Where will you find the money to pay me back? All right, I'll pay back $11,000 a month. Are you crazy? How many years do you think it will take to repay it that way? Don't say that. I really regret it. Regret. Yeah, if we hadn't split up, I wouldn't have to beg you for money now. I have to ask, isn't that unjust? So you're just after my money. No, it's not like that. We don't have love, but we can rely on each other. It feels like I'm only being relied upon. You're so rigid. Thinking like that won't make you happy. We could even remarry. I didn't mind our marriage that much. Wow, I do mind. I don't want to be with someone who can't apologize. Fine, I apologize. Sorry. Is that good enough? What are you apologizing for? Explain in 400 characters or less what you did wrong. Ah, I just apologized because you said so. Pathetic. Don't ever call me again. Why? I apologized, so will you remarry me or help me? My sister is suffering. Shut up. Go to hell. Saying so, I forcefully ended the call and blocked his number. Later, I heard from mutual friends that Mark, despite saying it was impossible, couldn't refuse Selena. Being not only constantly nagged by Selena, but also persuaded by his mother to help. Consequently, he ended up borrowing money from a consumer finance company to repay her debt in full. Everything was settled. Assuming Selena would work and gradually repay the debt, they thought so. However, far from working, she resumed her shopping habits. Despite having suffered before, she again made purchases on revolving credit. This burden eventually fell directly upon Mark to handle. When they confronted her about why things turned out this way, she reportedly said, "I never intended to buy anything. By the time I realized it, I had already processed the credit." Mark and his mother, naively believing Selena's words, just accepted, saying she must be sick. They neither devise any solutions nor take her to a hospital. Despite thinking she is ill while saying this, Selena, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry, is reportedly laughing over tea with friends, saying, "Really, Mark is so easy to manipulate." Eventually, they couldn't escape the debt and had to sell their family home. Now Mark, his mother, and Selena ended up living together, but they couldn't afford the rent for the apartment they used to live in, so the three of them moved. Apparently, their life is quite difficult now. It seems only Selena is enjoying herself, but neither Mark nor his mother realize this. On the other hand, I continue to profit from the stock market and now live a comfortable life in a spacious apartment with my child.
Everyone harbors one or two secrets they'd rather keep hidden. I'm no exception. Back in the day, I was quite the wild child. Losing my parents at 15, I quickly went astray and joined a gang of troublemakers. Thanks to my dad's insistence on teaching me wrestling since childhood, I gained a reputation for overwhelming strength, surpassing even the boys. However, my life in that world came to an end after meeting a certain person. But living such a life inevitably accumulates lingering issues. Now, at 35, my name is Nancy. I live as an ordinary housewife, working at a local supermarket. With my light makeup and quiet demeanor, no one would guess that I once wore flashy makeup and rode around on motorcycles. Yes, I was a member of a delinquent group and even the leader of a ladies' gang. But then I met my husband, Joshua, and everything changed. It all started 10 years ago during a clash with a rival gang when Joshua unexpectedly intervened. That gang used to start fights at every gathering, and one day, a particularly fierce brawl broke out. Joshua joined in to save his brother, a member of the rival gang. As members of both groups fell, Joshua and I were the last ones standing. I even remember Joshua laughing at his mistake, realizing his brother wasn't even there. His dignified appearance somehow struck me, and I found myself speaking to him. "Hey, you're pretty cool. I mean, really, looking like this, you must have some strange tastes. Were you calling out for someone named No? Did you find him?" I asked. "No, it turns out my brother wasn't here," he replied. That's how our slow, private conversation began. Joshua's brother, it seems, was an irredeemable delinquent. Joshua had even taken up boxing to try to reform him. He admitted he couldn't stand to ignore wrongdoing. Through our conversation, we grew close, and over time, it became clear that we had feelings for each other. But back then, Joshua despised delinquents. Despite our mutual attraction, my involvement in the delinquent world prevented our relationship from progressing. Finally, Joshua said that if I left the gang for good, he'd want to be with me. Tired of the senseless fights, I took the opportunity to leave the group. We started dating and got married 5 years later. The group I was part of disbanded, crushed by a rival faction 2 years after. After marrying Joshua, I underwent a complete transformation, evolving into a calm and graceful woman. However, our peaceful life was recently threatened by a certain neighbor, Joshua's sister, Sonia. and her husband. One morning, as I was seeing Joshua off to work, the doorbell rang. Who could that be? I thought, and I decided to check. The next moment, Joshua looked surprised. It's Sonia, he mentioned, referring to his sister, whom I had met once at a family dinner. Hey, Joshua, we've moved next door starting today. Please take care of us. Hello, I'm Tony, Sonia's husband. Well, looking forward to your cooperation. They both greeted, starting off with a disrespectful attitude. But since Sonia was Joshua's sister, I couldn't be too confrontational. We got along well with the in-laws, so I didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. However, it turned out that Tony was the person who lured Joshua's brother, Noah, into the delinquent world. They both went to the same high school and were a year junior to Joshua. Joshua turned 34 this year, so they must be 33. Sonia, 3 years younger than Joshua, should be 31. Too bad about your brother, huh, Tony? Sonia remarked. I don't care about Noah anymore, even you, Joshua, she continued. Joshua was visibly angry. His brother had passed away due to a fight. Joshua's brother and sister apparently never got along well. Sonia felt neglected in favor of her brother and developed a rivalry, which eventually extended to Joshua as well. Joshua once mentioned how difficult it was to deal with his sister, preferring to focus only on his brother. Like me, Sonia was also a former member of a delinquent group. Unlike her, Noah was forcibly recruited by Tony. Seeing his siblings' transformation, Joshua probably grew even stronger in his sense of justice. As the three of them glared at each other, I spoke up from behind Joshua. Joshua, you need to leave for work soon. He snapped out of his reverie. Oh, right. Running away, he muttered, remembering his responsibilities. I haven't forgotten that you laid hands on me. That was because you attacked Noah. All right, both of you, enough. We're done here. Sonia's words cut through the tension. Joshua left for work, the conflict still unresolved. At the same time, the bell tolling the start of Sonia and her husband's harassment began. An hour after Joshua left for work, the doorbell rang, but when I checked, no one was there. An hour later, there was a loud noise at the entrance, as if something was violently placed there. When I looked, there was a heap of cardboard boxes dumped in front of the door. What's this about? I muttered to myself, but no one was around. So, I decided to ignore it and went back inside. Then, I heard a small popping sound from the balcony. I hurried over and found 3 broken eggs. We live in an apartment on the corner, next to the room Sonia just moved into. This meant the harassment likely came from Sonia's room, as there are no neighbors on one side and it's too high for someone from below. Anger rising, I confronted my next-door neighbors. Hey, is that you? What do you want, showing up like this? I demanded. Sonia greeted me with an irritable demeanor. Is this your idea of a prank, throwing eggs on our balcony? It had to be Sonia or her husband. The angle only made sense from Sonia's balcony. But Sonia glared at me, replying, What? Don't be absurd, lady. You got proof we did it. Make false accusations and I'll call the cops. Despite being a former gang member, her reliance on the police in such a situation seemed second-rate to me. I have no proof, but the way the eggs are scattered, they could only come from your balcony, I asserted, frustration evident in my voice. I struggled to remain calm, but Sonia kept glaring and arguing back. Proof? That's weak, she scoffed. Then Tony chimed in. Hey, just because you're Joshua's wife doesn't mean you'll get any special treatment. If Sonia was second-rate, Tony's words were no better. He might have thought he was intimidating, but to me, it was not frightening at all. I could feel my old self stirring, but I didn't want to revert to my past. So I played the role of a meek, unassuming woman and said quietly, Please don't raise your voice. Inwardly, I wanted to deliver a roundhouse kick right then and there to snap that foolish neck. But having reformed after meeting Joshua, I didn't want to throw away all my efforts for something like this. Seeing my reaction, they both burst into laughter in front of me. Aha, so you're Joshua's wife. I thought you'd be something special, but you're just a dull woman. Sonia sneered. Weak. Tony was giving you too much credit. At the family dinner, you seemed like a real introvert. Holding back my rising anger, I was told, Go on, leave, and the door was closed on me. I stood there, staring at the closed door, feeling a mix of frustration and disappointment. I pondered telling Joshua, but I knew that even if he spoke to Sonia, they'd just feign ignorance. It would only result in more harassment and frustration for me, so I decided against it. The next day and the day following, the harassment from Sonia and her husband continued. It always began after Joshua left for work. Who dumped this garbage at our doorstep? It must be those two, I muttered to myself as I prepared to leave for work at the supermarket. The door got stuck halfway, blocked by a bag of garbage. I reluctantly took it to the disposal area and then headed to work. 5 hours later, I returned home to find something unbelievable. There was a cardboard box in front of the door, arranged like a table. On either side of the box, lit candles were placed, and in the center, a vase with flowers was set on the door. Above, a photo of me, taken who knows when, was stuck. They were mocking me as if I was deceased. Furious, I was about to kick the cardboard away when Joshua called from behind. Startled, I turned around to find Joshua, who had come home from work. "You're an hour early," I exclaimed. "I got off work early today. What's all this?" Joshua was also surprised at the sight in front of the door. We quickly cleaned up the cardboard and candles from the shared hallway and went inside. There, I told Joshua everything that had happened. It's likely Sonia and her husband, but we don't have any proof. So even if we confront them, they'll just deny it, I explained. After a moment of thought, Joshua had an idea. "Let's buy cameras, one for the balcony and one for the entrance, especially hidden well at the entrance," he suggested. I agreed with Joshua's suggestion. There was a limit to how much more we could endure. We immediately purchased cameras online and had them delivered to Joshua's workplace to avoid suspicion. For now, we'll just have to endure until the cameras arrive. Then we can retaliate with evidence. Understood, Joshua said firmly. So, I bore the harassment from Sonia's house for the next couple of days. For most people, endurance means being unable to fight back due to lack of strength or fear. But for me, it was different. I was holding back the urge to retaliate in a world where using force was permissible. I would have already intervened with those two if I could, but not being able to act on it was incredibly frustrating. 3 days later, Joshua came home with the cameras. "Any trouble since?" he asked. "The usual. Today they even threw a fish head onto the balcony," I replied. "Let's set up the cameras right away. Put one behind the air conditioning unit on the balcony, aiming at Sonia's balcony. We'll hide another near the fire extinguisher by the entrance." The day after installing the cameras, Sonia's antics started again as Joshua left for work. I monitored everything through a recording app. Sure enough, the two of them began their antics. I silently observed and left for work when it was time. 2 hours into my shift at the supermarket, Sonia lined up at my register. Well, if it isn't my sister-in-law," she said with a tone that made it clear she knew it was me, her demeanor dripping with condescension. I silently scanned the items as Sonia continued. "Aren't you a bit cold for a cashier? Shouldn't you be more hospitable? Come on, give me a discount on this." Other customers lined up behind Sonia, watching our interaction with concerned expressions. "Hey, I'm not a scarecrow, you know," a middle-aged man in line spoke up to Sonia. "Can't you see she's uncomfortable?" Sonia whirled around, glaring fiercely. "Shut up. It's none of your business," she suddenly yelled at him. The man seemed completely deflated by Sonia's outburst and quietly left the line. I then addressed Sonia for the first time. "Ma'am, if you continue to behave inappropriately, I'll have to call security." I spoke in a calm but icy tone, perhaps mindful of the others watching. Sonia retorted, "Geez, it's just a joke." So disappointing, and left the store, abandoning her items halfway through the transaction. The other customers stared in astonishment. My anger was just about to boil over when I returned home after work. There was a notice on the door. "Useless cashier." That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I ripped off the note in frustration and waited anxiously for Joshua to return. After Joshua got home, we reviewed the footage from the cameras. It clearly recorded Sonia and her husband's misdeeds. "Now we can fight back." "All right, let's go now." Anger filled Joshua's eyes. When we rang Sonia's doorbell, Tony answered. "You two again. What do you want this time?" Sonia appeared behind them. "What do you want, Joshua?" the two of them asked lazily. We finally began our counterattack. "You two." As I started to speak, Joshua stopped me and stepped forward. I recounted. "Nancy, let me handle this." Sonia and Tony were taken aback as Joshua continued. "If you harass us any further, it won't end well for you." Tony retorted, "What? You want to fight? Do you even have proof we did anything?" Before Tony could finish, Joshua started playing the video saved in the recording app. This is video capturing your wrongdoings. We had to install cameras because your harassment was too much. This silenced the usually talkative pair. Sonia, showing a hint of panic, turned to Tony. Tony, frowning deeply, glared back at us. Damn it, you got us this time. The trouble started from your end, remember? I said with a serious face. Tony retorted, so we settle this with force, huh? Wait there, Joshua. I'm calling someone. Call whoever you want. We'll be ready. Joshua stood firm, undeterred as the situation escalated. Tony desperately pleaded into the phone. William, I need backup now. His tone was completely different from the bravado he showed us, repeatedly begging for help. After hanging up, he turned back to us. Get ready, Willie. The most notorious guy around here is on his way. He smirked at us, convinced of his imminent victory. But relying on someone else's strength showed his true cowardice. Why don't you confront us directly? Joshua challenged. Keep talking. I know your strength well. I called a special guest this time to ensure you both feel real terror. What a pitiful sight it was. No matter how much they threatened, neither Joshua nor I felt any fear. You must be too scared to even speak. The quiet and meek Nancy, right? Sonia taunted me with a condescending tone. 5 minutes later, the much bragged about William arrived. However, he looked surprised when he saw us. William, over here. Long time no see, Joshua greeted him. Sonia and Tony were visibly excited, having high expectations of him, but their expectations were quickly shattered. What's going on here? Indeed, long time no see, Will. My calling him left Sonia and Tony with puzzled expressions. Joshua also greeted him. It's been a while, Will. The couple looked even more confused by this interaction. Confused? Tony asked. What's this? How do you know, William? As Tony spoke with sweat on his forehead, Will looked back and forth between us. I simply said to him, well, let's not do this, okay? Hearing this, an angry Tony retorted, don't joke around, William. Please do something. Sonia and Tony were frantic, unable to grasp the situation. But then Will addressed them. Hey, don't tell me you mess with Nancy. His question left the couple momentarily stunned. So what if we did? Tony answered hesitantly. Furious, Will shouted, idiots, don't you know who you're messing with? His rebuke left them standing frozen. They clearly had no idea what was going on. Seeing this, I turned to Joshua and said, hey, Joshua, I reverted to my old self from 15 years ago, just for now. Instead of Joshua, it was Will who turned and responded. Nancy, please don't. If you do something to them, it might end up more than just an injury. Will cautioned me. What? You're giving me orders now? I replied, taken aback. No, I didn't mean it like that, he quickly clarified. Seeing the special guest they called for help, Sonia and Tony were bewildered. What's happening here? Their faces turned pale as Will spoke. Do you two know about BBN? He asked. Yeah, it's famous. It stands for Black Butterfly Nancy, right? The nickname of the former leader of a ladies' group, Sonia confirmed. That's right, and this lady here is Nancy herself, Will revealed. Sonia and Tony were shocked. No way, really? They both lost their bravado in an instant. Continuing, Will said, back then, I led another delinquent group, but we were decimated by Nancy's group. She could take down 30 people by herself. Sonia and Tony now looked at me fearfully. It made sense. They had been harassing someone who they thought was inferior, only to find out she was the leader of a ladies' group they themselves had once belonged to. I didn't know Nancy is practically a legend, Sonia admitted. We joined the group 6 months after you left, Sonia said, indicating that she and Tony had joined the group half a year after I had left. Will had been scouted by me and stayed in the group even after my departure. And looking after Sonia and Tony as their senior, he left the group just before it was decimated by a rival group. By that time, Tony had taken over as the leader and was the last leader before its downfall. Before you ruined it, it was an invincible group. You can't match Nancy, Tony proclaimed. How could this? Tony was increasingly cornered and distressed by Will's revelations. Well, the group that took you down is now the strongest in New York State. But if Nancy was still active, she would still be the strongest, Will remarked. Sonia and Tony collapsed, their spirits broken. Seeing this, Will turned to me and apologized. Please forgive them for my sake. Watching Will apologize, Sonia and Tony had completely lost their will to fight. They never imagined their call for help would backfire this way. All right, but you'll have to settle your dues properly. I glared at the two of them. For 1 month, you'll clean this apartment and our balcony that you dirtied. If you skip even one day, I won't be so forgiving next time. Okay, Sonia managed to stutter out her agreement, completely intimidated. Tommy, unable to speak, just kept nodding frantically. Watching them, Will commented, "No one can really stand up to Nancy." Hearing this, the silent Joshua finally spoke, "But I hate delinquents. If Nancy hadn't reformed, I wouldn't be here." Looking down a bit, Joshua said softly, and I peered up at him. "Don't worry, I won't show that side of me again." Will burst into laughter at this scene, and we all ended up laughing together. Will and Joshua knew each other because the three of us had met after I left the group. We bumped into Will while on a date and had tea together. "Well, now that's settled, why don't you come over for dinner?" I suggested. We three left Sonia and Tony slumped by the entrance and headed to our apartment. Before entering, Joshua added, "Sonia, you're my sister, so I'll let this slide just this once. But there won't be a next time." Watching him, I wondered if he too was hiding the same fighting spirit as us. From that day, the harassment from Sonia and her husband completely stopped. As promised, I continued cleaning our balcony and the common areas of the apartment, though just delinquents doing chores. Other residents sometimes looked at them curiously, but that soon stopped. After a month, Sonia and her husband left the apartment without a word. Even Joshua, their blood relative, didn't know where they went. They probably left feeling awkward about staying in the same place. We had no reason to get involved further and thought they finally made a wise decision. Finally, we had our peaceful life back. Though neighborhood troubles are common, I never thought I'd be directly involved. At least it was resolved amicably. I have a past I'd rather keep hidden. Joshua has kept it secret all this time. I'm not ashamed of all my past, but I have reflected on my mistakes. I just want to cherish my life with Joshua now, and I hope to live without ever showing my true nature to anyone again.